Manny Farber died on Monday at age 91. An acclaimed artist, the New York Times declared him the greatest still-life painter of his generation. Farber also wrote about the movies. He did it so well that filmmaker Paul Schrader once said he belonged on the Mount Rushmore of American film criticism. Our critic-at-large John Powers agrees, with a special accent on the word American.
It's always been easy to make fun of critics, even critics at large. Mark Twain described us as eunuchs in the harem, saying, "They know how it's done, and see it done every day, but they can't do it themselves." Maybe so, but nobody would have ever made such a joke about Manny Farber. Even as his real job was being a gifted painter, a poster of one of his still lifes hangs on my wall, Farber moonlighted as a film critic from the 40s to the early 70s. Now, it's possible that you've never heard of Manny Farber, but in a sense you already know him, for he was one of those critics who opened other critics' eyes. He was admired by everyone from Pauline Kael to Susan Sontag. The one collection of his criticism, called Negative Space, is on every critic's bookshelf, and it's amazing how often it's been quoted, borrowed from, strip-mined, or used as a launching pad. Although he knew his high art, Farber grasped that motion pictures shouldn't be looked at in the same way as old-world masterpieces like the Mona Lisa or Madame Bovary. The movies are all about looseness and movement, the boundless unruliness of life. Farber disapproved of filmmakers who tried to impose too much highfalutin order on things. This included everyone from John Huston to Michelangelo Antonioni. At the same time, he was among the first to champion Howard Hawks and that two-fisted pulpmeister Sam Fuller. For Farber, what makes movies great is the same thing that made jazz America's enduring contribution to 20th century music. The swing, the personal virtuosity, the knockabout ease that is a democratic culture's answer to aristocratic savoir-faire. He was perhaps the first to see that the true glory of American movies lies not in high-minded message pictures like To Kill a Mockingbird or Schindler's List, but in B-movies and genre pictures like The Big Sleep, where the artistry is hidden within playfulness. Take, for instance, this scene from The Big Sleep, where Humphrey Bogart's Philip Marlowe is in the bedroom of his client's daughter, played by Lauren Bacall.
But I don't like your manners.
Well, I'm not crazy about yours. I didn't ask to see you. I don't mind if you don't like my manners. I don't like them myself. They're pretty bad. I grieve over them long winter evenings, and I don't mind you ritzing me or drinking your lunch out of a bottle. But don't waste your time trying to cross-examine me.
People don't talk to me like that.
Oh.
Do you always think you can handle people like trained seals?
Uh-huh. I usually get away with it, too.
How nice for you.
If anything in Farber's work is well known, it's his distinction between so-called white elephant art and what he dubbed termite art. While the former announces its capital I importance, it has the bloated pretension we now associate with Oscar bait. Termite art goes forward by energetically nibbling away at boundaries. It's the difference between Robert De Niro gaining 70 pounds to star in Raging Bull and that 6'5" termite John Wayne dominating a scene with the casual confidence with which he moves across the screen. Unlike many critics, Farber was never a systematizer or thumbs-up, thumbs-down kind of guy. He simply wrote what he saw and felt, presenting his thoughts the way Charlie Parker sprayed his notes. His passages come at you in waves that dazzle on the page, but are hard to read out loud, because no sentence or two can do him justice. His writing could be so sharp and funny that, even today, young critics foolishly try to imitate him. But this misses the whole point. You're supposed to have your own personality, not his. Such an emphasis on the personal is part of what made Farber so distinctively American. And not just American, but of the American West. Born in Arizona, he wound up in San Diego, and his career is a triumph of Wild West individualism in all its thorny unpredictability. Politically, he was conservative. He twice voted for President Bush. But aesthetically, he was far from it. He was as happy to champion Godard and Fassbinder as he was in praising William Powell and Ida Lupino. For him, the highest value was freedom. The freedom of actors to capture fleeting moments without being crushed by some director's preening visual scheme or by $50 million worth of CGI. The freedom of filmmakers to capture life in all its rude outrageousness without feeling the need to ennoble the audience with big statements. And the freedom of critics to offer their personal response to work without worrying about some artistic hierarchy inherited from Europe or being forced to serve as a consumer guide. Put simply, Manny Farber was the critic as libertarian, and he left American culture a little bit freer.
John Powers writes about film for Vogue. Fresh Air's executive producer is Danny Miller. Our engineer is Fred Snyder. Dorothy Farabee is our administrative assistant. Roberta Shorrock directs the show. Our digital production project supervisor is Julian Hertzfeld. For Terry Gross, I'm Dave Davies.